Okay, it is 6 o'clock. Welcome all to the Papillion Vista Community School Meeting, Board of Education, February 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. That is the correct date. We are starting tonight with the American Civics Curriculum hearing before moving on to the regular board meeting. First, call to order and Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Lotus?
Here.
Mr. Madler?
Here.
Ms. Fisher?
Here.
Ms. Witt?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Here.
All present?
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone we have the open meetings law posted at the entrance to the room. Moving on to Section 2, American Civics Curriculum hearing. Ms. Siri.
Good evening, Board of Education. So tonight I am here to take you through a real brief presentation of our annual American Civics public hearing. So you may recall or recognize this document, but this is in accordance with State Statute 79-724 that outlines the duties of the American Civics hearing. That includes our curriculum surrounding social studies, as well as a subcommittee known as the American Civics Subcommittee that the board must form, which of course we have. And what you see here in front of you is simply the document that we use in district. I'm sure you recognize it. You've seen it many times. That on the left-hand side is the law, and on the right-hand side is the policy for PLCS, or the actionable steps that the district takes to address that, and that has been included for you tonight. So just to kind of remind you, since we are talking about social studies, we adopted the Nebraska State sections in the middle of that circle represent the content areas, and the blue ring on the outside identifies the skills that students learn through that curriculum. I also included for you the mission statement for those standards as developed by the Nebraska Department of Education. So just as a refresher, the social studies standards have identified 3 requirements that a district does when they put those into place. The first one, it identifies those areas of content that a student will study, civics, economics, geography, and history. The second part encourages students to participate as informed, thoughtful, and engaged citizens. And the third, it allows students to develop the actions and dispositions needed to fulfill their civics rights and responsibilities. The overview in a very high-level summary. They are written for grades K-8. Each grade level has individual standards, and we have those posted on our district webpage, as well as you can find them on the Nebraska Department of Education's webpage as well. The standards are organized by those same topic areas, so it's very clean by civics, economics, geography, and history. And then the high school standards are a little bit different. Instead of being written by each grade level, they are written simply in one band. And that has to do with required coursework at the high school level. For Papillion-La Vista Community Schools, these are the courses that we have based in our social studies. You can see on the left-hand side, those are the elementary courses starting at kindergarten and going through 6th grade, and then we kind of covered the topics according to the standards that are taught in each of those levels. And on the right-hand side, you see the secondary courses starting with 7th grade and then going up to 11th and 12th grade. I did break out American government by units, as that is one of the requirements of the law. So you can see, and that's to ensure that all the branches of government are covered. And then I also included a few of our elective courses that are also captured under the social studies band at the high school level. So each year, I zone in on an area on that document. Again, the left side captures the language of the law, and the right side are the actions that the district will take. So tonight, you can see I picked a different area than previous, which was 6 months ago. The top part is about multicultural education and also ensuring that it stresses the services of men and women who play a crucial role in the achievement of national independence and establishing our constitutional government. And then you can see on the right that we do have that in our current social studies curriculum. And as part of the toolbox renewal cycle, that's our curriculum development, evaluation, and update cycle. We made sure that that language matched the law and also that each of those content areas were in as aligned with the standards. On the bottom, we talked about the law states that the social studies curriculum has to be made readily accessible to the public and reference this section that they have access to review it. And so on the right-hand side, you can see that we do have those standards linked on our webpage, as I said, and we also, as part of our curriculum adoption and evaluation cycle, we do put it up for public preview. Social studies is currently not in our toolbox cycle. It has gone through and it's at the full implementation stage, but we did have that public preview in June of 2022. So since social studies is currently not in cycle, I thought I would give you an update on what is in cycle. So like I shared with you, this hearing is focused on social studies, but it is out of cycle as this is the full implementation year. And so now it will be out for 3 years, and then with the update of standards or changes from the Department of Education for Nebraska, we will then pull it back into cycle at that time. Currently, our largest core area that is in cycle is English Language Arts. We have recently aligned it to the new standards for English Language Arts, and it is in the process of being in that revision process. We did conduct a public preview in December of 2023, where we put out the materials that we were using to look and align to the new standards. And we have also, currently in cycle, we've been working on personal finance and computer science, as those will both be graduation requirements with accordance to new law. Currently in development, on the other side, we will finish up the ELA pilot. We have been piloting that curriculum at the elementary level, and so that is currently underway. We also have finished making changes for our English Language Arts for middle school and high school. They will go to full implementation next year along with kindergarten. And we are working on purchasing those resource materials that have been identified, and we will be using some of the allocation of the ESSER's dollars for that curriculum purchase along with that. And then we do have a couple of elective courses that are also in cycle. For example, French is in, Spanish is in, instrumental.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Siri. Anyone have any questions or comments? No? And seeing no public comment for this hearing, I will adjourn the American Civics Curriculum hearing at 6:10. And we will move directly into our regular board meeting for the month. We will skip the call to order, since we already did that, and move straight to Section 2 communications. And we will start with student council from Papillion Vista High School. And I think we just have one person joining us, and is that Nova? Perfect. Welcome. Come on up.
Okay. Thank you for having me tonight. The president had an appointment and she got delayed, so I'll be speaking on behalf of both of us. All right, starting off with Color of Hope. We recently celebrated our Color of Hope basketball game last week against Millard West. Together we raised over $5,000 that was donated to the American Cancer Society. Show Choir. Our choirs have been in competition since the start of January. We have competed in Gretna, Burke, Lincoln Southeast, and traveled to Minnesota. Connor O'Brien has been a highlight, winning Best Performer in 3 of these competitions. Our jazz band went to Omaha West Side and performed, and several members received honors for their individual performances. Wrestling. Our girls team won districts and have advanced 6 girls to the state tournament. Our boys team has advanced 11, and they will compete this weekend at the CHI Center. Bowling. Our girls finished 5th in the state last week. Austin Watts also placed 7th as an individual for the boys. Overall, we've had a really great season. For STEM Academy, our STS department has been very active. They recently visited local company Score Vision and then took a trip to Kiewit. PL Club. This semester we have continued our leadership lessons by bringing in current college athletes. Division I and All-American wrestler Nick Hamilton and Division I gymnast Lauren Homicello have both talked to our athletes. Coaches Academy. Our coaches have also been working at their craft. We have had Creighton women's volleyball head coach Kirsten Berthnall Booth and UNO assistant athletic director Matt Maher come and talk to our coaches. As for Student Council and NHS made over 60 blankets for Project Linus, and students have donated fleece, and we cut and tied the edges in order to donate to this organization. And as of recently, we wrote the name of every student and staff member on colorful hearts, and we'll hang them around the halls. We like to recognize each and every member of the school community, and students love going around and finding their names. DECA, they have been active in our school selling candygrams to raise money. DECA will start competition soon and hope to advance several members to nationals. And closing out for tonight, our dance team has recently just come back from Florida Nationals. They had a great experience and competed very well. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you, Nola. Yeah, great job, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks. Okay, moving on to public comment on items not on the agenda. We do have a few. Just to remind the speakers, when I call your name, please make your way up to the podium. Before you start, please state your name and address, or at least city. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes. Again, Ms. Branco has the timer. First beep at 2 minutes, 15 seconds, and the final beep at that 3-minute mark. And we will start with Mr. Darrell Lechner.
I'm back. My name is Darrell E. Lechner, and I reside in La Vista. And I just wanted to first start off, my dad wanted me to tell y'all a joke, and that he's kind of a silly one. And my daughter's insured. I had to start off with this, so bear with me. This is Jenny and Julietta's. A bear is a bear. A bear puts his socks on and his shoes on, but he still has bare feet. I had nothing to do with that one. Nothing to do with that one. Mind you, that was encouraged. There's one other one. There's 2 other ones, but I was like, I ain't got time for all these jokes you guys are giving me. All right. But back to more serious things. This is concerning committees, and that another parent had brought up that our committees that are researching things and bringing forth stuff to our school board is very important to us, especially as its parents. These committees and that should be video recorded so us parents have the opportunity to understand things more clearly rather than being felt left out. You guys want us parents to take part of this stuff more. I mean, it's really important to us to actually understand the process of what's going on to make these decisions, which you guys normally agree to, which is fine. But in light of that, we really need to see their thought process that's happening, because we have experts that do this, and it's very important to us to hear the full language of what's going on. That way, we can make these decisions and agree with you, and that's what's important, rather than, okay, the committee says this is okay, this is what we're pushing forward, and then you agree, and we have no idea what was the process. If that should make sense. So just as we record these here, recordings of these meetings, these YouTube or Facebook and then we can view them later on. As parents get this opportunity, thus they'll participate more and feel more at ease. I mean, a lot of us parents, don't want to just come after you guys. We want to understand these things, how we get to these decisions, so us as a community can agree with it and we can move forward. Or if there's something better, we can bring that up in a meeting and continue it. One other thing that's really important, I wanted to push on to getting cameras in the classrooms. To give you one idea that this would help, teachers receive assessments all the time. They can give their administrative staff to support them in giving you the students becoming more abrupt and problematic. The assessments would be sped along and improved because you would not have people going in the classrooms becoming a disruption, because the students are very protective of their teachers. They are. They love their teachers normally. And an assessor coming in, they could do this through the videos, and I ran out of time. I tried to make it quick. But I'm
Thank you,
trying to
Mr.
make our
Lechner.
life a little easier on our teachers, our students, and lots of love, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Lechner. Maybe we should start, we need a joke before every public comment. I think that would really help things out. Yeah. Next on the list, well, yeah, I got you. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Let's just take the batteries out.
Well,
Okay, we'll take it out of the room.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'll get my timer going.
Thank you. We've got a backup
Oh,
timer.
you want the timer?
Yep, I got
You
the
got the timer?
Yep.
All right. All right. Yeah. Next up for public comment, Aaron Gilliland. Oh, yeah, Dr. Rickley will probably wave his hand with maybe 45 seconds to go.
Yeah, I'll give you 1 minute, I'll give you
Okay.
2 minutes, and then at 3 minutes.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Thank-
Can you hear me okay? All right. My name is Aaron Gilliland. I live in Papillion. My address is on file. I'm here this evening to read to you parts of a censure as well as a press release regarding the activity of various Republican members of this board and the censure that the Sarpy GOP put out recently. After several years of parents raising concerns and exposing harmful content available to students in PLCS, the Republicans on the school board, Skip Bailey, Marcus Madler, Brian Lotus, and Valerie Fisher, have taken no measurable action to address these concerns. Sarpy County GOP, by a vote of 94-2, responded by overwhelmingly passing a resolution to censure the Republicans on the PLCS school board. On November 8th, 2022, after several complaints from parents regarding egregious materials in the school, the community made their voice heard by electing a conservative by more votes than any other board candidate during the general election. Their stated goal was to remove these materials. On March 27th, 2023, a graphic excerpt from All Boys Aren't Blue was read to the school board members during open public comment. The content was so graphic, the public YouTube channel could not host the video. On November 6th, 2023, the board voted unanimously to ignore the voice of the people who desired a fresh perspective regarding harmful content in the schools, and instead appointed Lisa Wood with no stated goals to remove this harmful content. On December 11th, 2023, despite having several months to address the removal of these books, another complaint was raised by an active student regarding Eleanor and Park, quoting appalling statements made in the book that quickly gained national attention through the social media account Libs of TikTok, embarrassing our students, our teachers, and our community as a whole. These events remove any possible doubt that the board members were somehow unaware this content is available to our students through taxpayer resources, not one Republican currently on the board made a demonstrable effort to remove these egregious materials, even while maintaining the majority on the school board. Not one Republican on the board voted in opposition to Ms. Wood's appointment to the board despite her long history entrenched in the very system defending these harmful materials. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Sarpy County Republican Party hereby censures the Republican members, Skip Bailey, Marcus Madler, Brian Lotus, and Valerie Fisher. The Sarpy County Republican Party commits to fostering an environment of transparency, accountability, and representation that reflects Nebraska values amongst our elected officials from local school board to the governorship. The Sarpy County Republican Party commits to efforts removing these materials from the school libraries and continue to hold our elected officials accountable that, quite frankly, by every measurable standard, have done nothing on this issue. The Sarpy County Republican Party looks forward to electing conservative candidates to local school boards that will take action and not rubber stamp the decisions of local gender identity captured bureaucrats. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilliland. And then lastly, we have, Lisa Kuchenmeister. Welcome. Back there. Dr. Rickley on the timer, Kathy? We good?
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
So Ms. Kuchenmeister, I'll hold up a finger, which I know is hard when you're reading, but I'll hold it up at 1 minute, 2 minutes,
Thank
and 3
you.
minutes.
Lisa Kuchenmeister, La Vista. So I would like to start off by saying what an amazing Board of Education sitting in front of me. Each of you are sitting here. This is a nonpartisan seat here. And as a mom with kiddos in our district, I want to say on behalf of myself and many others that we think you are doing a great job and that you have done everything to listen to the input of staff, parents, and community members and follow policy over the last year. So thank you to each one of you. Just as a reminder, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I'd like to show a little love and recognition to one of our teachers and her school. Did you know that our district has the only elementary school in the state that participates in National History Day? This is, of course, G. Stanley Hall. I'd like to encourage everyone to check out the Nebraska History Day website to see all the projects. In the last 2 years, our district has had 6 projects make it to the state competition. 7th and 8th graders, which is no small task. The first year they got second for group exhibit at the district level, second for the individual website at the district level, and third for the group website at the district level. This past year, the junior division did amazing in the district competition. They placed first for group performance, and then also got first place for group exhibit, third place for individual exhibit, and that included a cash prize from the Douglas County Historical Society for history pertaining to Douglas County. At state this year, the students earned second prize and honorable mention from the Nebraska Land Foundation. Their projects were on William Henry Jackson, the photographer from Omaha who took pictures of Yellowstone paving the way for it to become a national park, and the history of Kool-Aid and its start in Hastings. Last year, this group made history as well. It was the first year in Nebraska National History Day that youth competed. These are 4th and 5th grade students that presented their projects at the state competition along with their 6th grade peers. And just a heads up to everyone that district competition is coming up on March 1st. And Ms. Stiegel said that they have 4 junior level projects and 1 youth project this year. So I'd just like to take a moment to recognize these amazing students, all from G. Stanley Hall, and the inspiring Miss Amy Deagle, who is a wonderful advocate and experienced Nebraska history teacher. So all these students participating, we want to wish you the best and good luck at the upcoming competition. Opportunities like this for our students would not be possible without advocates like Miss Deagle. Thank you to all of our teachers that go above and beyond, and especially those that inspire greatness within our schools. You are our greatest asset, and we appreciate everything that you do for our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item C, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Rickley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madler, members of the board. Happy Monday to all of you. For our members of the community that are with us this evening, thank you for being here. For those that are watching online, thank you for engaging with your Board of Education and your school district. Your participation is appreciated. First off, I wanted to thank the board and community. and Ms. Siri in particular for sitting in this chair while I was out. I think, and being your superintendent for 11 years, I don't know that I've missed a board meeting before. Maybe it's happened. If it's happened, I don't recall it. The school district, I think, probably ran better in my absence, so thank you for that, Ms. Siri. But I was able to travel to Hastings 3 weeks ago tonight to see my daughter, who participated in honor choir. So I was busting buttons and couldn't have been prouder of my daughter. So thank you for giving me that rare night off. Other things as we look around the district, some of which we heard from Nova. She did a terrific job of capturing certainly what's happening at Monarch. But also wanted to update the board on some legislative issues. I don't want to steal any of Mr. Gay's thunder. Senator Gay will be joining us here in just a little bit. But there are a number of bills that Mr. Richards and Mr. Gay are following. More on that in a little bit. We are at day 26 already. And as you're all aware, this is a short session, which means it's a 60-day session. So we're already fast approaching the halfway point. Bill introduction, of course, is over. So we're starting to get a better handle on those bills that we think may impact us, either directly or indirectly, as well as those that don't appear to have much momentum. But we'll be talking more about that later on this evening. Also wanted to thank the community members that have expressed interest in your Board of Education. For those of you that are watching at home, and certainly if you're watching the Election Commission website, you'll see we have 6 declared candidates. The incumbents, that deadline is fast approaching. We have all 3 incumbents that have stated their intentions, and we have at least 3 non-incumbents who've also stated their intentions. March 1 is the deadline. So for any interested candidates, you have about 3 weeks to make up your mind. But as always, thank you for your interest in this Board of Education and supporting this school district. We've been busy this time of year running our advisory structure. I think the board is well aware, and our community probably is as well, that we meet with a number of advisories throughout the course of the school year. The student advisory is the group that we meet with most frequently. We meet with them monthly, 16 students, 8 Monarchs, 8 Titans. We had an outstanding conversation led by our own Dr. Settles last week at South. It was one part talking about employee recognition and what really makes a difference for our employees. We know how important that is for retention. And we also talked a little bit about, as they reflected upon their careers here at Papillion La Vista Community Schools, some of them have been here since kindergarten, some of them came relatively late in their career. We talked about what are those things that set us apart? What are those things that make us unique? What are those things that make us great? As well as what are the challenges? And Ms. Baranko put that list together. We'll share that with the board, some really insightful stuff. We had a similar conversation with our teacher advisory and our classified staff advisory, though that probably focused more on the employee recognition. When we ask our staff, what is it that makes you feel valued? What is it that makes you want to stay here? Those are certainly really important conversations. Also had a conversation to meet with the state chamber just last week, and they asked me to speak along with 3 other individuals on some of the challenges in the workforce, specifically in the education sector when it comes to recruitment and retention, which is a conversation, of course, this Board of Education and Dr. Settle's team have had a number of times. So that was a great opportunity to meet with other statewide leaders. Speaking of statewide leaders, we didn't have a single recognition on tonight, but we will in subsequent board meetings, at least 2 honors that we're aware of that we'll be recognizing at a future board event. Bill Lynham, baseball coach, Papillion La Vista South, received NSAA Champions for Coaches. That is a statewide award. I don't know that we've ever had a coach get that, but we'll have more details on that at a future board meeting. And we also found out that Brennan Heck, student at Papillion La Vista South, took home all the hardware as a state champion bowler. So we'll be getting Brennan in here to recognize him for his outstanding effort. And lastly, I know we had a couple of board members there. We had a lot of staff. Last Friday night, we had Titan Monarch basketball. Anytime we have a Titan Monarch event, whether it's wrestling, volleyball, softball, name the sport, it's pretty outstanding. I'm always hoping for a tie, and I'm wearing tan because we all know how that works. And I guess in a way we did. The girls, South girls won, and Monarch boys won, so not exactly a tie. But my point in bringing it up is that gym was packed, not just for boys, not just for girls, but for the entire duration of the 2 games. The pride exhibited by our community members, our parents, our coaches, our kids. If you haven't lived other places, it doesn't necessarily look that way everywhere. We've got a pretty special community here, ladies and gentlemen, a pretty special school district, and I'm proud to be part of it. And with that, Mr. Madler, I conclude my superintendent comments.
Thank you, Dr. Rickley. Moving on to item D, board reports.
Well, I can kick it off here. It seems like a long time ago that we had our liaison luncheon at Patriot, but it was after our last board meeting, and we've had several weeks in between there. It was really a great lunch from a lot of different perspectives. The food was outstanding, but setting that aside, we had some good conversation about Patriot Elementary quick facts, about district celebrations, staff celebrations, things that have been important to the staff at Patriot. We went over some of the building highlights as we talked through our lunchtime. They have a lot of clubs that they're very, very proud of, and so we talked about those. Some of them we had to actually ask what that means, like POSHE, P-O-S-H-E, we had to ask. So, but great conversation about all the things that are going on at the school to really support students and get students engaged as best as possible. The challenges that we talked about were no different than those that we've talked about at any other one of our, in particular, our elementary liaison lunches, and that's the behaviors and mental health challenges that we see with our students. We talked a little bit about class sizes, a couple of concerns, but nothing really major there. Had some discussion about paras, and then the lack of one-on-one technology for elementary. Do we think we're going to get there at some point? You know, and that was a big topic of conversation. They did have some great questions about the district's leadership positions for growing your own. And then would there be ever a possibility to implement a late start or early release similar to what our secondary schools do or other districts do? And then where does Patriot fall on the construction timeline for bond issue? And as we all know, any school that's on the bond issue is wanting to know when is it going to be their turn. And then overall, it was just great conversation. It really was. Very upbeat. The staff was very excited to have us there, and it really was great to be able to walk through the building, talk to different people. We went into a couple classrooms, and I'll tell you what, those students could care less that you're walking in their classroom. They're engaged in what they're doing, and that's where their focus is, and it's almost like, wow, they didn't even see us there, but they know we're there, but they're just very focused on the work at hand. And so it was great to see all the good stuff that's going on at Patriot Elementary. I thought overall it was a wonderful, great conversation. That's my.
All right, well, I get to do mine then, because I think mine was the same day. It seems like it was ages ago. I was at Ashbury on the 30th of January. Great conversation as well. Unfortunately, I had to leave a little early because I had to teach, but it was still a great conversation. They had some interesting, things too. They put together a really good sheet talking about some fun facts and how much they have grown in just the 3 years there. It's just amazing how big they've gotten. One of the questions that they asked, you just then they give a list of questions, and I thought this was interesting. I've never had this asked before, but we were asked, when you think of Ashbury Elementary, what comes to mind? And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I think you had the best answer. Windy. It is windy out there, but yeah. But no, it's a beautiful school, and you can see the staff, very positive culture around there with the staff. You could see it in the folks that we had sitting around the table with us, and just in general, it just seems like a very positive, upbeat group there. They had the same kind of questions, mental health issues, asking about students and also the staff. And we talked a little bit about that. They also talked about the teacher shortage, recruitment and retention. Obviously, growing as big as they are, they're looking, to see where they need to add teachers. One of the things, of course, they were talking about, because I think it was not too long after or before that, the snow day makeup policy and what we were going to do and how we were going to handle that. So we talked through that a little bit and told them, what we were thinking. But overall, just like you said, Val, at Patriot Ashbury, it was a great visit. Enjoyed talking to them. Unfortunately, like I said, I had to leave a little early, so I didn't get a chance to walk through any classrooms, but definitely would like to do that again. So that would be all I have. Thanks.
And I attended Liberty Middle School last Friday. Had a great visit with 8 staff members and their 2 administrators. I thought their celebrations were very exciting because they focused on the large percentage of students that they have participating in extracurricular activities. They're at 84% of their kids in the building are participating, and also they're having a great involvement in the band and show choir. And that they felt was a result of the positive relationships that teachers have taken the time to develop with kids, and they're just really seeing the fruits of that as their culture is enhanced, and kids are continuing to grow not only in the classroom but through the extra curricular activities. 2 things specifically that they also were very proud of was unified sports and how their school is getting more involved in that. They were having staff participate in the polar plunge on Saturday. And then also the Hope Squad and the good response they've had to that, and how they have kids that are really excited about moving on with Hope Squad as they transition into high school. They also had some areas where we had a very positive and conversation that involved the para shortage, and even though they recognize what HR has done to improve our recruitment of paras, how that still does impact how they're able to provide services for kids. We talked about retention and hiring of new teachers. Our focus really was on hiring new teachers and how maybe kids aren't thinking about education as a career as much as they did in the past. And not only talking about those things as challenges, but they offered some nice ideas and things for us to consider as we move forward. We spent a little bit of time talking about the MTSS, or the multi-tiered systems of support for kids, and just what they're doing to meet the needs of all kids in the building, and also the challenges that come along with that. But again, it was a very positive discussion with thoughtful responses from the staff, and a very enjoyable way to spend an hour.
Well, I can move on to another liaison lunch. It was a busy time. I had a lunch at Portal Elementary. As everyone else has said, a great group of diverse folks around the table to provide fantastic conversation. It's the first time I've had like a formal, really well thought out presentation presented as well, just to show some of the highlights and the successes that they were having. So they're very proud of their Star Council. They did Socktober. They've done donation toys for Children's Hospital and blankets for Project Harmony, were just some of the things they had done recently. And one of the biggest things was they had an entire main office transition there. So new principal, new receptionist, new everybody in the office, and they were just so proud of how smooth that transition was, and it was really seamless, and they welcomed some of the new changes with the new leadership in the main office. Really enjoy their strong PTO and willingness to go out and raise some money for things that the kids are asking for. The newest one was some flexible seating in the 5th grade, so they're pretty excited about that. As Ms. Wood said, I think Ms. Fisher, they really have a sense of pride in what they do every day. They really act as a family, a strong community. They have each other's backs. They're willing to step in, especially as, we've heard pretty much at every place to talk about student behaviors and things. And when a teacher's attention has to be shifted to a particular student that might be having behavior issues, that, help is there, and to make sure that the lesson is still going and the rest of the children are continuing to learn. They definitely thank the district for the retention stipends. They're also very excited and impatiently waiting for their renovations to occur at Portal as well. They definitely saw the impact of the increased sub pay, and again, they want that bond project to come in so they can have some more badge entryways to make it a little easier to get in and out of the building. They did talk about the HVAC system, Mr. Richards, so just FYI, I know it's been an ongoing issue with their HVAC stuff, but we know that hopefully will be resolved as part of the bond projects, if not sooner. Again, yeah, the challenges that they're looking to address, again, as everybody else has mentioned, staff mental health and burnout, the resources, they're appreciative of the additional EAP visits that we're able to increase this year as part of the healthcare package. Yeah, again, they recognize the being short-staffed at times and the para shortages and everything else as a common theme around the district and around the state. And again, just brainstorming ideas on techniques and additional resources to help with those student behaviors. So I let them know, and they actually had some insight into the fact that we've, hired some outsourced counselors and therapists and things to give our counselors a chance to do their jobs, but not have students or staff wait as long. So I know I discussed that came out of my liaison lunch at Papio South, but knowing that they're focused now to get some resources down to the elementary schools will be well received as well. And then lastly, I get to be a proud parent tonight. Somewhat sad. My daughter's attending Future Titan Night for the class of 2028 this evening, so unfortunately I didn't get to go with, but mom was taking up the shop. So it's strange about to have a high school freshman, but excited, and it was great. The folks from Papio South, I know they're doing the exact same thing at Monarch here, but to have some of the staff come down and help explain what some of the classes were, to give them some insight and when they're registering for their classes to be a part of the freshman team next year. So it's been an interesting time over the last week. So thanks to all the staff at both Monarch and Titan for putting together these events to give them some insight into what next year might look like for these freshmen.
I did not attend a liaison lunch this time, but I do. My grandson is doing that at Monarch tonight with my husband. We got a little bleed over from the board appreciation, and I want to once again thank the staff, the students, the community for all of their gratitude and expressions of gratitude to the board for the work we do and how meaningful it is. These are the cutest things to read, and I would read this one that's special, but I'm not going to because it's too cool.
We had the conferences for my two sons at Terra Heights. I'm not going into their conferences, but I just want to thank the staff. I know it's conference time. Thank the staff and the teachers spending their nights these weeks so they can have the conversations, more in-depth conversations with parents on how their kids are doing. And hopefully the parents take advantage of the opportunity to go talk to your teachers, your children's teachers, and get an understanding of what they're doing in the classroom and how it's been going so far this year. So I just want to thank the staff for spending that extra time outside of work on those conferences. Okay, any other board comments? No? All right, moving on to item E, committee reports, buildings, grounds, and finance.
Yes, we did meet on Friday the 2nd here at the central office. I'm not going to steal Mr. Gay's thunder. We got overview of some of the legislative items that are impacting public education or finance of public schools. We'll hear more about that here shortly. On the agenda tonight, we discussed the land transfers from Springfield Platteview, the two of them that we'll be discussing later. Updates on the 2023 bond projects, some updates on some of the projects that have already kicked off. Glad to see the snow melted so the baseball and softball projects can get ramped back up again. Some future projects and a lot of what's on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Human Resources and Student Services.
The committee met last Monday on February 5th, and I'll just let the public know the members of my committee are Valerie Fisher, Ms. Fisher, Mr. Madler, and myself. We met with the staff from the HR department, and we talked about staffing for the 2024-25 school year, and some of that is on the agenda tonight for discussion. That's an opportunity for the public to review the agenda item and have discussion as the board discusses it after the subcommittee has met. Any other staffing changes will be made and done with current staffing. The staffing that's being proposed might be for minimal requests that have to be changed, but other staffing will be done with current staffing, and they're not expecting any new staff for next year at this time. There's an update on the number of in-district transfers. These are processing students who want to move into the district or who are already in the district and want to move to a different building perhaps. The team processing the request remains committed to the goals to balance the high schools, prioritizing the internal requests with those who are already in the school district while facilitating growth, and the option enrollment for those who are outside of the district are due on March 15th. We discussed negotiations that they will be open this fall for certified staff. They are still under a contract for the next year, but it'll be for the year following that, and negotiations for Local 226 for pairs and clerical will happen this spring. And a reminder that PLCS is hiring, always, especially in the paras and the part-time staff, so it's a really good opportunity for people to join the greatest school district in the state. And I also noticed on Facebook that the foundation is hiring for Kids Club, so that's an opportunity as well. Our next meeting is on March 4th.
Thank you, Ms. Witt. Curriculum and Americanism.
We have not met, but we did have our American Civics curriculum hearing this evening. So anything else that comes before the group will be brought to our open board meeting for discussion. One of the things that I think is important to note is that any policy discussions always happen out in open board meeting, because if we were going to be looking to change any of our policies, we'd want that to be a joint conversation between the board and community. But sometimes when we're reviewing a certain policy series, there may not be any suggested changes, which is why we won't have any discussion other than there were no policy suggested changes, because policy is what comes before the board versus procedures. So we just had the hearing this evening. So.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fisher. Moving on to section 3, action items. We'll start with item A, action by consent.
I make a motion to approve the action by consent items as listed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Okay. Item B, Trumbull Park 2023 bond. Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Madler. Good evening, Board of Education. We reviewed the Trumbull Park project last week with our architects and construction management team. The guaranteed maximum price came in at $8,058,307. So if you do the motion tonight, we got to take out that 9 and put an 8 in there. It should be $58,307 there, as it lists up above in the paragraph before on the background. So just to bring that to your attention. This will include renovation items, site improvements, additions, window replacement, door replacement, painting, new lighting, carpet tiles, infrastructure updates, and amongst other renovations that we have scheduled for that. Timeline will begin this spring at Trumbull Park and end August 1st of 2025. Our contractor there is Boyd Jones, and I see Mark Pfister is in the audience tonight joining us, so appreciate that, Mark. And I'll take any questions from last meeting if you have any.
Nope, I'll make the motion to, 1, approve the guaranteed maximum price, GMP, of $8,058,307 for the Trumbull Park renovation and additions, and 2, to delegate authority to and authorize, approve the President of the Board of Education, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, or a designee for the school district to sign, execute, and deliver such construction contract, sign and approve any change orders, retain necessary professionals for assistance, pay the contract price, change order increases, and expenses related to the construction project and site preparation work, and take all other action necessary to complete any requirements or obligations under the construction project and contract.
Second.
Okay, We have a motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Mr. Bailey. Any other discussion? No? Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Okay, moving on to item C, Terra Heights 2023 bond.
Yes, another follow-up from our last meeting. Terra Heights will begin to get site improvements this spring with additions, window replacement, roof replacement, painting, new lighting, new carpet and tiles, infrastructure updates, and other renovations as scheduled and reviewed on. This will be, the contractor will be Sampson on this one, and the GMP is $7,800,451. Any questions?
Just have about the same completion timeframe?
Yes.
I'll again make a motion to, one, approve the guaranteed maximum price, GMP, of $7,800,451 for the Terra Heights renovation and additions, and two, to delegate authority to and authorize, approve the President of the Board of Education, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, or a designee for the school district to sign, execute, and deliver such construction contract, sign and approve any change orders, retain necessary professionals for assistance, pay the contract price, change order increases, and expenses related to the construction project and site preparation work, and take all other action necessary to complete any requirements or obligations under the construction project and contract.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Lotus and a second by Ms. Fisher. Any discussion? Questions? No? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, moving on to section 4, discussion information items. Item A, legislation review with Mr. Tim Gay from Catalyst Public Affairs. Welcome.
Welcome, Tim.
Well, thank you. Like I say, Dr. Rickley didn't steal too much of my thunder, but anyway, just real quick, we are in a short legislative session, which is 60 days, and I'll explain why that's super important right now. Began January 3rd, as you all know. Priority bills are due this week, which is very, very helpful, so we'll know obviously what priorities are, and that's where they're going to have time, especially a short session. If it's not on that priority list, there's a good chance that bill won't be heard. Doesn't mean the bill couldn't pass because they could put it on the floor or something like that, but it'll really focus down to what we're doing, and that's really important when they introduce this many bills this year. So we've got legislative hearings are going on now through the end of the month, the 29th this year, and then they want to adjourn the 18th. They could adjourn early if they wanted, but usually it would be about that 18th. They'll really leave about a week before then, and then give the governor 5 days to review bills and veto anything, and then they'd come back just so he can't pocket veto anything and just not sign a bill. So legislators will come back and do that. So earlier they introduced 596 bills just this session. So there are a lot of bills to follow, 10 constitutional amendments. We're dealing with 18 new senators. Some were appointed, as I think we talked about earlier. That's interesting. So that's 37% of the whole legislature, kind of within less than 2 years' experience. So that'll be interesting going on this next year. To note on the Education Committee, Sarah Conrad and Meyer are the newer senators on the Education Committee. Others have been around there for a little while, and Senator Merman, of course, is the chair. But we are watching those term limits going forward. I was looking at just different bills that were put in, and like I say, there's 120 bills right now just in the Education Committee that they haven't even acted on. So we're watching those 120 bills. There have been no real priorities yet. I think Senator Walls, I should say that, Senator Walls, I think, prioritized one of her bills, has to deal with education. But that's really what we're just waiting for, is to see what they do, but on the revenue committee too. So we're not just always in education. There's a lot of bills in the revenue committee that are going on as well. So I brought up just a few here I wanted to go over that I thought were important. They're all important, I know that, but there's a couple that stand out. LB 1063 is interesting. It's basically you'd have to go to a vote for anything, a public vote on any spending on that building fund over $250,000. A lot of people came. That's not that much when it's all said and done because you just approved $16 million, I think. So anyway, that would be a real problem. There's a lot of people were saying, hey, small schools actually were coming in and saying this doesn't even work for us because we have a lot of things going on. So that was one. I put on 1141 because I brought that up last year, and I wanted to bring it up for this reason. Last year, there was a little complaints, mostly from Mr. Richards, about what would happen if expulsion of K through 2. Well, the bill was written. We did complain. I think we were one of the few that complained on that one. They had to rewrite the whole bill because over the summer and the next year, a lot of people came in and were complaining about it in this summer when they held hearings. So they rewrote the bill. He has a version of it there, 1141, but there's another bill, 1146, that Senator Merman, the chair, wrote. That's probably a better bill, goes to everybody. And basically what happens on that one is if the child is going to be a physical harm to others in the classroom, which is probably most of the reasons some of these kids have to be removed from the classroom, his is just easier to understand and a lot of things. The 1141 is, there's just a lot of moving parts in that one that I don't think that will go. So we are kind of following that. There's another bill, Senator Wall's, this priority bill that I talked about. She's looking at a statewide computer science education program, and they do fund that bill, $1.5 million and $500,000 after, which is good because a lot of times they'll just tell you to do something and no funding. So that's one of those bills where, you know, she prioritized it, but it's still in the committee. So it'll be interesting. They'll probably kick that out just as a courtesy, see what happens. So 1331, I don't get it. That's like 18 different things in one bill. That's a committee bill probably. So I put it on there, and it has a lot of different things into it. I'm not going to get into all of it, but so what's going to happen, that will be, I'm guessing, their committee bill, and then they'll add everything onto that bill and another bill. And these will be, the speaker talked about not loading up these bills. Last year, you probably read some of the bills had 27 different bills in one bill. So he said, leave it to 5. We'll see if he can enforce that or not. But anyway, there's already about 10 bills in that bill right now. So that's what we kind of go through. The way we do that is I'll talk to, Brett and Dr. Rickley and kind of go through it and say, hey, what do you hate? What do you like? How do we want to comment on this thing? So most all these are in the committee. Vargas had one. This is new. I saw you were just doing your curriculum earlier, but this was an interesting one. It's a Media Literacy Act, and how do you research projects, and how do you do some different things. That's looking at, it's not even scheduled yet, so that's kind of interesting, though. That would be a whole new curriculum issue that would, I just thought it was kind of interesting with the media literacy, one of the many bills. And then, like here, Senator Linehan, when we go to the Revenue Committee, she pretty much has, last year, as you know, the funding came in and $2 billion, $1 billion last year and another $1 billion supposed to come in for special ed and those needs. Over the summer, they were upset with a lot of different school boards, not you, by the way. We talked to all our senators. You're very good about how you handled your spending and not taking windfalls and doing what was expected by the governor, I guess. So, but a lot of people didn't do that. So they are really upset now. And what's going to happen is for any kind of levy limit, instead of the super majority of the board, you're going to have to go to the voters. That's what that bill does. It's still in committee, but that was a long hearing. A lot of people came in opposing that, of course. And there was some in favor of it too, of course. But that one would be a big change here for your flexibility on local control. So that's why I put that on there. Then the last two I wanted to talk about a little bit. These are big. LB 1414 and LB 1415 are the lids. So when you look at lids, they're lids on any public spending. Most people with any kind of taxing authority, which would, of course, be the schools, a large part of it. So anyway, they've got the lids on there. The big argument has been how much they're going to carry forward and what's a growing school district. What is considered growth, not revaluation. Did you get new buildings, new houses, new whatever? So they're going over what is considered growth, and they're going to put in a growth factor, which would be very good for Sarpy County schools, especially Papillion La Vista. But that has not been, no amendment's been written. Right now it's just talk, and the problem with that is until you see the amendment, it's just talk. So there's an amendment coming on that, and then there's another amendment. The governor says, well, we'll get to give, if you cut your property taxes, we're going to cut those by 40%. We're going to give you state aid, and this is a little bit more, schools are in here, but this is also for counties, cities, whatever. But if you read in the papers, the way that works is a 1% sales tax, and then a few other moving parts. If one of those parts doesn't happen, then I don't think any of this thing happens, because they can't get the extra revenue to come in to offset the tax exemptions to take it off the property tax roll. So he describes it as a stool, I guess, with three: property taxes, income taxes, and the other is fees or whatever. But anyway, those three different funding methods, the property tax is way out of whack. So he wants to get that off of the property taxes onto this more sales tax and income tax. So sales and income, property, and then anyway, that's three, I hope. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at, trying to get that done. We'll be watching those to see, it's from 0 to 3%. So that's a lot of money, between 0 and 3%. So that's kind of what we're doing. There are some valuation bills too we got into on revenue. That was the valuation on that too would allow no valuation increase on 1241. Well, he did change this as Senator Von Gilleren, and the valuation was supposed to be, he said basically none, and then you'd have to lower your levy no matter what your valuation went up. So if your valuation went up 5%, you lower your levy 5%. Well, he quickly realized that would be a spiral to 0. So he got up at the committee, and he's very gracious about it. He goes, I goofed up, and I need to fix this with an amendment because for growth and those things. So we did have a good chance to talk to him about how that works, the valuation process and all those things. So that was good. We're doing a couple things. I put on here things that you'd like to follow. What we do every week is have a call. Tomorrow morning, we'll get on a call, Dr. Rickley and Mr. Richards, and then we'll kind of just go over, here's what's happening this week. Here's the hearings going to happen next week. We go through this sheets of the bills that we send out. I don't know if you guys send these out to, yeah. Anyway, we'll go through those and just say, here's what's coming up. The issue has been on the hearing dates have not been scheduled just like they're supposed to. We have, like I say, there's 13 days where the Education Committee can have a hearing. Well, with that many bills, they've been having like 10 hearings a day, and usually they do just 5 or 6. So it's kind of interesting when they come out with all of these bills, they're kind of waiting, and it's like, okay, now on Wednesday they just put out Tuesday's bills. So it's kind of like every day we're checking out to see what's happening. I think most of them are posted now. And a lot of those bills, just like today, you could have anything from social bills, a ton of teacher retention bills and scholarship bills. It's because every senator, seems like half the senators brought bills to education, but a lot of them are teacher retention. Here's the way we can do this. When you have that many teacher retention bills, you can't do all that. You got option enrollment, you got all the different ones that come every year. So those still came, plus a lot of other things. So it's just really been an interesting time. Usually we'd go till St. Patrick's Day with hearings, even a short session. The speaker said, I want this done by February. So that's been a problem. And when you only have 2 days to have your hearings a week, so the education meets on Monday, Tuesday, and then revenue Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they get shortchanged days, so they're just really packing them in. I commend them for working hard, and they work into the night a lot of times. Not like you, of course, too, but they're doing a lot of this. But like I say, it'll be a lot more. Things will come into a better vision here in about 2 days, 3 days probably, because they'll sort this out, narrow it down to probably 100 bills. So that sounds like a lot, and it is, but when you look at 100, how many are going to be education related or whatever? So then it narrows down to probably about 20 that are, I'm just guessing, you never know what they'll pick or what they'll prioritize. 35 people have prioritized bills already, so that's kind of really rare. A lot of people prioritized on the first and second day. I mean, there were 15 priority bills, which is super rare. Just like Walls, she prioritized that bill. It's not even out of committee yet. So that was really rare. About 35 have prioritized, and I'll have to, like, say, by Wednesday. So we're really looking forward to that. And then the rest of the hearings after this, quite honestly, if you haven't had a hearing on your bill, you're pretty much not going to pass that bill. So I hate to say we're not following the hearings the next 2 weeks. We will be, because those can be added on. But it's really hard now. So they're just plugging away, doing their thing. But like I say, I would encourage, if you have any bills that you hear through your school board association or something like that. I know we do talk to Colby Coash quite a bit, and the Association of School Boards. So we do connect with them quite a bit. NCSA, we talk to them. So there's a lot of conversations going on. But if you ever have anything that you'd like to, follow or testify on, we probably could do a better job of getting you, like I say, it's hard this year, but I'd like to do a better job of getting you those bills ahead of time if we can. But sometimes we don't know for 3 or 4 days before, which they're supposed to post these 2 weeks out. But so sometimes if we can get you and you'd want to testify, let us know. Plenty to testify on. And I do think they like hearing from school board members and people from the public. So instead of sometimes a lot of the associations show up, So, but if that's anybody's interest, let me know this year or whenever. Or just come down and visit with senators. That's super helpful too, as we get this narrowed down. And we know the 10 bills, and they're not going to be, maybe they wouldn't be so beneficial to the district. Might not hurt for you to come down too, and we're more than happy to pull out senators and visit with them. And I think they'd like to hear from you too. I know you're busy with other things going on, but I make that offer, and would love to see you down there and come on down and talk. But other than that, Dr. Rickley, I know you got a lot of things going on.
No,
Any
really,
questions?
really good stuff, Tim. And, Brett and I will deliver testimony from time to time, but I think Tim's point is well taken. They prefer hearing from other legislators, prefer hearing from other elected officials. So we will certainly do it when you need us to and when the need arises. But if that is something that interests you, let us know. In terms of kind of next steps, Tim will continue to host his weekly telephone calls. Brett's making regular trips to Lincoln. We're still very actively involved with GNSA. And then we will do what we did last year. Shireen put together basically a spreadsheet that allows us to help kind of funnel some of those bills down and give us areas to talk about and discuss and potentially take positions on. Because as Tim indicated, there's just simply too many bills to reasonably track them all with any degree of due diligence. So what each of the big three teams, HR, Student Services, Teaching and Learning, Business and Operations, that we've asked each of them to identify 3 to 5 bills that we think are the most impactful and probably have some momentum. We don't want to waste a bunch of time on a bill if all of the indications are this one hasn't had a committee hearing yet, it doesn't likely have a lot of support. Let's not waste time on bills that likely won't go anywhere. The bills that are going somewhere should be filter 1 and filter 2 are of those bills that are going somewhere, what bills are most likely to really impact us. Finance bills, for example, graduation requirements, for example, bills dealing with staff recruitment and retention, for example, those are the ones that are probably going to catch our attention. So as we kind of get that list whittled down with Tim's help, we'll be sharing that with the subcommittee, through the subcommittee structure. And then if there's something outside of that that you don't think we've identified or that perhaps is a greater priority for you that isn't made it on the list, that would be a good opportunity to talk about. Brett, anything else from your vantage point?
Just the finance bills. I mean, we had a really good one last year from Governor Pillen, and that's something that our district can live with. He allotted some more money in there for public schools, and we were able to do a big tax cut. Well, as I said last year, we're kind of back to that benchmark of losing state aid, which forces us to have to keep the levy high during higher valuations. So we've already seen our state aid for last year under the current formula, which is down from about $28.5 million to about $21.5 million. So we're losing over $7 million in state aid next year already on the model that's come out. That's 9 cents of property taxes right there. So, the more we can educate people on the formula and how it works, the senators don't, like Tim said, they put out bills and they don't even know because they're new, a year or two in, and they don't understand the formula. It's their formula for state aid, and so I testified on that bill last week and kind of let them know that, when we have our tax hearings, it's here's what happens. So you guys drop our state aid, and so until they fix the TIOSA formula, we're fighting a little bit of a losing battle on property taxes and things of that nature. And we've been an advocate, as you have, with our priorities to find ways to not let TIOSA dictate property taxes so much. We need property tax cuts. We've all said that for our taxpayers. And right now, that's not fairly happening across the state because of the TIOSA formula. So.
Any movement and any changes towards the TIOSA formula, because that really is a huge concern. And I just don't see anything happening to really regulate it, to allow us to do what you're telling us we have to do, and then not providing the funding needed. So I'm not really sure. I'm not seeing it. So am I missing something?
No, you're not missing anything. I think it's a very complicated formula. And the senators are reluctant to get into it because every time they open up the TIOSA bill, they have problems. And they don't even understand those problems until the hearings. And, if they worked a little bit better with school officials on the formula itself to get the information prior to writing a bill, it might be a little better on how it affects each district statewide. I think the big thing they have done, because they got frustrated with the TIOSA formula, was the property tax credits on the rear end side of things to give taxpayers credit. Your taxes, you'll get about a third of your general fund, which is our major fund, taxes back during that time. So that's the one thing they did, I think, in lieu of altering the TIOSA formula.
Do you think any of the bills about teacher recruitment and retainment are going to go anywhere? And how are they going to fund those? I mean, a lot of, there were several, it looked to me, 10 or more that were introduced, and I just wondered if you thought any of those would have meat that they could make a difference.
There are a lot introduced. So, everyone has a solution, right? So there are a lot introduced. How they're going to pay for them, I don't know, because what's happening is you've seen a ton of money from this ARPA money, and they're just rolling in money. That's starting to end. And Senator Clements, his appropriations chair, has even started saying, well, this is $5 million, this is $10 million or whatever. So they're starting to watch their budget because going forward. So I don't know. We will find out, because when it gets to the floor, they're going to have an appropriation bill with that. And if they start, I saw them talking about $1 million here the other day, and before they weren't even discussing it. It's kind of, oh yeah, it's $1 million. I mean, so, but things are getting back to reality, I would say. And that next year or whatever, if the economy would change at all, it's really going to be reality here. So, I don't know. They all got these scholarships and teachers. There will be a couple, I'm sure, on these 10 bills that come out. Somebody will want to do something with that or put it in the committee bill. So we'll have to wait and see what they do and how they're going to fund it and how long. That's the other thing too. It's all for new teachers. There's a couple for special ed, I guess, but it's a lot of that new teachers, teacher shortage we're into. So they keep saying it, and so it's geared for that. And some's just flat out scholarships to get through college. So I'd be guessing if I told you which ones are going to come out because I'm not privy to that. But and then just Dr. Rickley, if I could, just so the board knows too, it's very good, very helpful. They got a really good staff. When I call anybody here, Kathy or Dr. Rickley or Brett, and I said, I just got a text from so-and-so, what do you guys do this? I mean, what is, cause I can't know everything about all this stuff. But generally when I get a text, I get an answer really, really quick back. And that's good. Or I'm standing outside and they want to come out. Hey, what's this? Oh, I can answer generally, on most things, but sometimes it's like, let me check. But they do appreciate that, and it doesn't take long at all. I can send a text or a call, and I get a response very quickly. So I commend everybody, and I know you all get questioned on those things, but that's a huge help, because once they quit asking me what's going on, that's not very good. So, and it's just not our schools. I mean, sometimes they throw crazy rumors out, and you got to quell those, but I think it's going good. We're always trying to improve a little bit how we communicate back and forth. But like I say, if you want to come down, I'd love to pull out some of these senators and you can tell them what's on your mind too. Because elected official to elected official, I think still goes somewhere. Not to say any of these other things don't, but it's kind of nice to look them in the eye and say, I vote on things too. And I got elected as well, and here's what's going on in my area. So don't want to put any pressure.
I don't know if it's you or Brett talk about the state aid comes, and the TIOSA money comes from revenue. What revenue provides that funding? Taxes, right?
Taxes.
Which, property taxes or
No,
what?
that's state taxes, income, sales.
Like sales, and is it
Income.
salary? I mean, where does all that, it all comes from those funds, and then we can levy property tax locally.
Correct.
So if you take away from this pot, you'll have to add, because the budget is the budget. So where that fund comes from, the balance comes from something. So that's the tricky part, isn't it? You want us to lower taxes, but then you're lowering aid, so how does that work? And that's where it gets real funny. You mentioned the computer science and tech, that there's money available, that there's a bill for that. Is that like into perpetuity? I mean, are they funding that forever? Or, is that, no. What about other teachers, special ed, and other teachers that we need to recruit and retain more than, just that one section? It's short-sighted, in my opinion. If you're going to recruit teachers for something, we need maybe different categories, especially different parts of the state where rural may need a different priority than urban school districts. Vargas's bill, I didn't get to read the whole thing, but my first impression from my glimpse at it was, couldn't this be done as part of, like, every class has, that is probably part of what happens in that class. Instead of making it a separate credited class, couldn't that just be rolled into the instructional process to help bring those skills along without it being a separate credited class? That we need to maybe have that kind of conversation with the senators about how we can roll these into the classes rather than making it a separate credited class that they have to take away from STEM classes or whatever. I think it would be great to visit with the senators if we can get those topics.
And I think, too, I should say, our senators are really good about visiting too, and I know I brought that up to Sue Ann and the committee. If we want to meet with them here, that's good too. I mean, once we get down, just grab a coffee. I know senators meet him at Panera anytime. They're very accessible, so that's a good thing. But I guess you don't have to go clear to Lincoln when they're doing that.
Food is also good. Bring them in for lunch. That's also
good. We could do that too. I mean, there's different ways, but they're super busy, and we just got to get on their schedule. But going forward from now on, every week there's at least one day off, so they're not working 5 days. So they'll be like a Friday or a Monday or something like that. So I looked at the rest of the schedule. It's like most every single week they have time off. And that's a good thing because it allows those outstate people to go home, or for everybody to kind of go home and go talk to your Chamber of Commerce or do whatever you want and kind of get some feedback on the bills, you know, because they don't operate in a vacuum either. But if you're not talking to them, someone else probably is. So get your point of view across, and like I say, we could easily get set up. You can too, of course, but that's super helpful too. And you don't have to cover 800 bills. You got 5 or 10 that are really important, and we will have information on those to get to you. So anyway, sorry for the lengthy thing, but there's just a lot going on.
Well, thank you, Tim, and I just want to thank in front of the board and community you for your outstanding effort. We are well represented by Tim and his team, and Brett. All of Cabinet is involved in the legislative process, but Brett and Tim in particular running point on this. So thanks for your leadership, Brett. Outstanding work. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep. Have a good one.
Okay, moving on to item B, Springfield Platteview Community Schools boundary transfers. Mr. Richards.
Yep, we have a few more to discuss tonight. Usually we do this once or twice a year where we have some pockets coming in under the 2015 boundary agreement that was made between Springfield Platteview and Pavilion La Vista Community Schools. Basically, that agreement says newly developed land can be transferred from Springfield Platteview to Pavilion La Vista. They also have one with Bellevue Public Schools as well, east of 60th Street, for those new developments. And then what happens is a developer wants to have that transferred over into our district. They typically pay the fee to Springfield Platteview, which I'll get into here in a minute. Basically, that fee is to offset their tax losses that they experience by giving up that land for about 10 years worth of taxes, usually. That's the way it was in the old days. Now it's gone up a little bit over the years. The developer pays a per acre fee for our district actually to have that land transferred, because usually the developer's one that wants it to happen. So they were the ones that spurred this agreement between the 3 school districts, because it's a little bit further away for the travel to Springfield Platteview than it is for Pavilion La Vista within the boundary agreement that we're talking about. What else it did, it allowed us to plan all 3 school districts ahead and do our enrollment studies and plan for growth and those types of things. So this is a big piece that we got together for back in 2015 that's really done us all 3 districts well. Once the fee is paid to Springfield Platteview, then both boards of education consider that agreement, like they're talking about it tonight at their board meeting. If approved eventually, we're not asking for approval tonight. That will be at the next meeting more than likely. Then it goes to the State Reorganization Committee for final approval, and then it gives the county the order to change the boundaries that we're talking about tonight. The current fee that developers pay is $2,459 per acre, and that increases 3% a year. It started out at 2,000 per acre, and it's gone up to that much over the last 7 years. The first land area requested for transfer is 72nd Place, and we call it number 2 because if you remember last fall, I believe it was, we did 72 Place 1. That was the apartments and the condos over in that area east of Shadow Lake off 72nd Street. So we transferred those over in 2023. Now they're looking to transfer approximately 24.417 acres in single-family housing. And I'll give you a look at that, where that's at. So I know it's a hard map to read, but you can see Highway 370 in gold, and it's just south of there in the red, designates 72 Place, the area we're talking about. Off to the west there, you can kind of see Shadow Lake, the mall area, and the actual lake next to it, so you can kind of get an idea where that's at. Over by Schramm Road, just north of Schramm Road there. Here's kind of their plot plan for the area requested for transfer. You can see it's single-family housing in this particular one. I believe there's 68 lots that they're going to put in that particular area. Another area requested for transfer, and this one, actually I was over at Springfield Platteview as the superintendent at that particular time, before COVID, and PLCS bought 86.9 acres of land for a possible future new high school in 2019. This area still belongs in the Springfield Platteview School District, and I think COVID kind of set back our negotiations and talks to get this area transferred over to Papillion La Vista. As per our boundary agreement with Springfield Platteview, the fee still needs to be paid for. So before the learning community came in, a district like ours was able to kind of take that land from Springfield Platteview as we grew. Okay, the unicameral back in that 2007 time period of the learning community said, can't do that anymore. We're going to freeze boundaries all over the metro. Okay, so boundaries are froze. The only way you can adjust boundaries is to do the process we're doing now, right? So that was part of the whole agreement there. So back then, when a district like Papillion La Vista would take land from Springfield Platteview as they grow, they give them 10 years of taxes for that particular parcel. So if you had 80 acres, you get Springfield Platteview 80 acres of 10 years of taxes, if that makes any sense. So we're still talking in that language when we negotiate a good faith amount per acre for us to pay for a transfer versus a developer. So they've been very good in negotiations. Dr. Rickley and I were able to negotiate April the following year is the way we're looking at it right now, of $52,152 a year.
Brett, would you remind the board and the public where this parcel of land for that possible new high school is?
You bet. We'll go right to the map here. And you can see this is a very similar map that I just showed you. There's Shadow Lake again. You can see 72 Place there, the apartments that were already approved just north, that sliver. And so this land is south of 72 Place, south a little bit of 72nd and Schramm, on the east side of 72nd Street is where it's located. It's known as the Linneman Acres, and it was purchased back in 2019 by our district. Any questions on these two particular transfers of boundary?
I just want to say thanks for all the information, and then I know especially the land that we own. I know there's been a number of conversations to come to an agreement on the dollar amount for it. And yeah, I mean, the set one right now is $2,459, and I think what did we get them to agree to? Is it the $1,200 per acre? So I think that's great. And again, I mean, we own the land. I think it makes sense for it to be in our actual school district. So thank you for all the work on the back and forth with Springfield Platteview Community Schools. Any other questions, comments? No? All right. Thank you, Mr. Rickens.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item C, staffing proposal 2024-25. Dr. Settles.
Yep. Hello, everybody. Yes, so Ms. Witt alluded to this a bit, but going to come to you with very conservative asks this year as far as staffing needs for next year. We've been busy having met already with all of the principals, looking at their projected numbers, allowing them to do movement necessary within their staff or just look to see what they have coming, and they're working with their staffs on those. So what I'm coming to ask you, first of all, is for to consider, and we'll bring it back to you again next month, our next meeting then. First up, a 1.0 FTE for instrumental music at Papillion La Vista High School. This is a position that was added in the last several years at Papillion La Vista South and would allow us then to have the equitable position at Monarchs. I'm really proud that in this district we do have over 1,700 seats in our high schools taken up every single day in our vocal and instrumental music courses. I think that's pretty impressive. If you're doing the math on that, you can figure out that that's some students that are taking more than one course as well. So I think you're probably well aware, but for many years, those
one of our teaching positions at both high schools had been split between vocal and instrumental. It makes for a staff member in each of those programs that is spread pretty thinly across the many programs that they represent. So this position, adding this 1.0, would allow us then to have both of our high schools to have 2 teachers serving in vocal and 2 teachers serving in instrumental, and both have very large programs. Other than that, Ms. Witt mentioned that any other staff movement that needs to be done can be done with the positions that we already have in the district, and we think we're able to accomplish those with that staffing that's already existing. However, my only other request for you would be to ask you to approve some additional positions for growth if we get to the point that we would need those. What I would ask for those is a 5.0 FTE in general education and 2.0 FTE in special education. We generally, if you look historically, try very hard not to utilize those positions and have a pretty good track record of not utilizing those positions unless a great need exists. For example, last year we came to you with the possibility when we had a really big jump in numbers in the STS programs at the high schools that rather than splitting a position between 2 high schools, each of them, we added a 1.0 for each of them to have an extra full position. Those seats are all being taken up and students are So, again, if we would end up needing one of those and dip into those growth, I would first come to the board and let you know the situation we were in and ask you to do that at that time, make you aware that we were at that spot. But those are the only requests I have for you. Do you have any questions for me right now?
No, after walking through it, I do think that this is a pretty conservative request, but having those 5.0 general and 2.0 special ed will give us some breathing space if we need it as we're going through the years. So I appreciate that while we may not need a lot of others, having this there for us to use as we need it. And there's no doubt we're always pretty cautious about it, but it is good to have the backup plan. I know that Mr. Richards appreciates knowing ahead of time what we might need instead of coming in the last minute of what we have to have. So, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? No? All right. Thank you, Dr. Settles. Okay, moving on to item D, Review Policy 2000 Administration. Dr. Settles. Sorry.
She was kind of giving me the look, so I think that was my cue to. Yeah, so just as a reminder to the board and the community, we annually review our policies. January, we do the 1000 series. February, we do the 2000 series. On and on it goes. I think the board had mentioned earlier, in some cases, substantive changes are made to the policies, and in some cases, we just stand by what we have. And we frequently bounce those policies by legal counsel to make sure that we're in compliance with state and federal laws. So the purpose of tonight's review of Policy 2000, which covers general operations and administration, is just to let the board be aware. Please put your eyes on the 2000 series. This board is very proactive about reading its policies, sending those suggestions to Ms. Baranko or the respective subcommittee that oversees those, and then we discuss those first in subcommittee, but we never take action in subcommittee. I think that's very important for our community to understand. We bring them back to the full board. Typically, we discuss them once, and then we adopt, if needed, the second hearing. So the 2000 are up. Please put your eyes on that if you haven't done that already, and send me and or Ms. Baranko any suggestions, and we will review before moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rickley. All right, that finishes up the discussion information items. Moving on to section 5, future board calendar, February 13th. We have a liaison lunch at Rumsey Station with Ms. Witt at 11:40 a.m. February 19th, 2024, no school. The staff development day. February 19th, 2024, we have the Papillion La Vista Community Foundation board meeting at 6 p.m. February 20th, 2024, liaison lunch at G. Stanley with myself at 11:40. February 23rd, 2024, liaison lunch at PLHS with Ms. Wood at 11 a.m. And February 26th, 2024, the next Board of Education meeting at 6 p.m. here at Central Office. And seeing no other business in front of the board, I will adjourn at 7:35. Thank you all.